In the ending of Assassin's Creed Origins, it is revealed that Aya is in fact Amunet, a legendary assassin who we know from way back in Assassin's Creed 2. To jog your memory, Amunet was the female Egyptian assassin who killed Cleopatra with a snake. And before people go, I don't remember that happening in Assassin's Creed Origins, it's because it fucking didn't happen in Origins, alright? Cleopatra doesn't die until 30 BCE, which is after all the events of Assassin's Creed Origins, DLCs included, so please, settle down. Angry disclaimer out the way, sorry I've get a lot of comments from people saying, but Amunet didn't kill Cleopatra because it didn't happen in Origins, and it's like, shut up. However, before we find out that Amunet is Aya, we also find out that Aya is buried with Bayek in Egypt. And if you remember, Amunet had a tomb in Assassin's Creed 2. And if you remember, upon opening the sarcophagus in the tomb, there is a body in there. So, does Amunet suddenly have two bodies or what? Why does Amunet have two tombs? Is this a plot hole that Assassin's Creed is notorious for having? Probably not. So let's look for an in-lore reason as to why this is a thing. Now, there are several possible ways that you could explain this. First of all, this is probably the weakest point, but you could argue that because we don't see both tombs at the same time, we see Amunet's tomb in Italy in the late 15th century while reliving the memories of Ezio Auditore, and discover Amunet's body in that tomb alongside Bayek in Egypt in 2017, it is entirely possible that the body could have been moved. However, I really don't buy into the fact that they moved Amunet's body from Italy to Egypt, because that would just be incredibly random. It could very well have happened, but I just doubt it. Why do I think it's likely that they wouldn't move Aya to be back with Bayek? Well, as I said in a previous video, I do believe that Bayek as a person was forgotten. Bayek became an embodiment of the Creed. My belief that Bayek was forgotten was consolidated in the Hidden Ones DLC's ending.
Our tenets need to be passed on to those who have taken our oath, so they have a true creed to study.
The Hidden Ones will pass on to Petra, and towards Judea, and forever. The Creed must live beyond anyone.
No one shall be bigger than the greater group. When I return to Rome, I will not speak of heroes. I will speak of discipline and perseverance.
So, as far as the Roman Brotherhood is concerned, Bayek is not some form of Creed legend, because Amunet would not speak of heroes, but instead the ideals of the overall Creed. However, it is likely that they knew about Bayek at the time, as a fellow brother and member of the Hidden Ones. However, it's likely that Bayek faded into obscurity, and the Creed is what was remembered. Which means that later on down the line, it would make no sense to move Amunet's body to Bayek's tomb. Not saying it's not what happened, I'm just saying that I can't justify it from my perspective. Also, the cathedral in which Amunet's tomb is housed didn't begin construction until 800 years after her death. So if her body were ever to be housed in this tomb, she would have had one resting place, then be moved to this one, and then later on down the line be moved back to Egypt, which just makes less sense. So it's probably safe to conclude that Amunet's body was never in this cathedral in the first place. So, why is there a tomb to somebody who was never laid to rest there? Well, this explanation could swing one of two ways, to be fair. One of which was suggested by James or Lasers in his video on the topic, in which he says that due to the legacy left behind by Amunet, the assassins in Italy honoured her with a shrine, and that the case was the same for every assassin that we see in the vault under Auditore Villa in Monteriggioni. However, if you look at these tombs, they aren't just shrines, they are also tombs, just not tombs to the assassins in which you thought they were. So, who are buried in these tombs? Assassins. That's an obvious answer, we'll get more to it in a second. I think that the shrines to the specific famous assassins throughout history have a little bit more to them, and yes, it's pretty obviously connected to the armour of Altair and the assassin seals. I think these tombs were built as a resting place for assassins as well as to house these seals, using specific assassins to mark them as a way to both honour these legendary assassins and at the same time provide markers for assassins who are looking for the seals in order to retrieve the armour of Altair later on down the line, as Ezio does. And these seals were created with the intention of being keys to unlock the gate in which the armour of Altair was kept behind. each key being marked with a symbol that clearly represents a specific legendary assassin, the responding mark being a statue of said legendary assassin in a tomb filled with fallen assassins. So these shrines could be a marker for somebody who would be trying to get the seals in order to unlock the armor of Altair, like Ezio did, in a way being a code only an assassin would understand. And considering that these seals unlocked a gate which guarded the armor of Altair, it only makes sense that these seals were created with the intention of being keys for that. Which means that the assassin tomb in which we find Amunet's shrine definitely was built after Altair was around. So we've basically come to the conclusion that Amunet doesn't actually have two tombs, and the only tomb that Amunet has is actually with Bayek, and that her shrine below the Basilica di San Marco in Venice is actually just a part of a puzzle meant for an assassin hunting for the seals in order to get the armour of Altair. And the same goes for every single statue under the Auditore Villa and their respective tombs across Italy, at the same time honouring these legendary assassins for their commitments to the Creed. But at the same time, where these seals are hidden, there are also bodies, so we know that these shrines are doubling up as tombs, although not necessarily tombs for who you think they would be for. So, who are the assassins in the sarcophaguses? My best guess would be high-ranking assassins who died after Altair, who were buried with the seals in order to protect them, waiting for a worthy assassin to come along and retrieve them, ultimately acquiring the armour of Altair, something the assassins definitely didn't want just anybody to have, even within their own ranks. So basically what we've concluded is that Aya only has one tomb, and it is with Bayek in Egypt, and that the other tomb was to other assassins, but it had a shrine to Amunet in it, both to honour her as a representation of the Creed and its highest values, and as a part of a puzzle for a worthy assassin to use in order to get the seals and get the armour of Altair. That worthy assassin happened to be Ezio. And that to me explains everything to do with Amunet having a tomb in Italy as well as Egypt. She just doesn't. She just has a shrine. Obviously I've added a lot of confusion to the mix with my theory, and it would probably be a lot easier to believe the more straightforward answer of it's just a shrine to honour Amunet, but it's probably a part of the puzzle to do with the armour of Altair as well, so I thought I'd share this brainstorm of mine. I do however apologise if I was really repetitive in that, because it can be very confusing and it can sound like repetition, but if I break down the wordiness of the explanation, it is actually rather simple. It's just a puzzle that only an assassin would understand, and a very skilled assassin would be able to complete. So there you have it. Obviously the real reason for Amunet having two tombs was retcon later on down the line, but it really doesn't affect the story either way because it can be explained off in a way that makes sense. This tin of worms, for example, makes sense in my mind. Hopefully it makes sense to many of you as well. I'll leave a link to the video made by Lasers on this topic, as it is a much simpler answer and it's just as possible as the one that I gave. You could argue that both explanations could intertwine, as technically they don't contradict each other. But anyway guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Also let me know what kinds of videos you want to see in the future as far as Assassin's Creed is concerned. I've sort of hit a wall with it. I'm trying to find ideas that I can do that aren't too straw graspy, but it's just not clicking in my head. So if you have any topic ideas, do let me know. Be sure to go ahead and drop me a follow on Twitter, I would really appreciate it, and I will see you all very soon in another video at some point.